just to let you know. Okay, let's go ahead and get going. Representative Chairman Stephanie Click is going to give us an update on the House activities, what was going on. It's been pretty exciting there, hasn't it, Stephanie?
It has. We've had troublemakers in the building this week. We started off yesterday. There was a group of individuals wearing hazmat suits in the building, including one in drag with their hazmat suit. And, you know, their goal was to try to disrupt. Yesterday, the elections committee met and we had shenanigans when Representative or Chairman Kane was bringing out his bill. I believe Representative Joan, you know, he has a first person account and can brief you more thoroughly on that. But they were not able to hear Chairman Kane's bill at the end of the day. Last night, we had folks in the Homeland Security hearing that were disruptive. They had a lot of witnesses and they had restricted the time because of the number of witnesses that you would be allowed to testify. And one particular lady became very upset that her time was limited and caused an outburst, and others that were there in the committee room also joined in. And they had to briefly recess to wait for the commotion to end. So very interesting day at the Capitol. One of the things that I want to mention to folks, if you're planning to go down and testify, is testify only on the bill that is on the floor or on the committee is considering at that time. If you go in and talk about other issues or other bills, you're putting that bill at risk of a point of order. And one of the bills that I laid out in elections yesterday, there was a woman that had come to testify on a particular topic, which my bill did not even touch upon. And, you know, she had to be corrected by the chairman that what she wanted to testify on was another bill, not this one. So please only testify on the matter before you in the committee at that time. So, yeah, I think Representative Joan can give a first person account of what transpired in the elections committee after I laid out my bill.
And that's exactly where we're going, is he's next on the list to give that update firsthand. It was kind of exciting there, Representative. So why don't you go ahead and follow up on from Representative Click and give us firsthand what happened in the elections committee.
Absolutely. Good morning, everybody. I gotta clear my throat. It is early in the morning here. So yesterday was eventful over in elections. You know, we did get to hear 4 bills. We passed out 3 of them out of the committee, sending her to the floor or to the calendar now. But you know, after session, we came back and you know, the thing with these election bills is we know they're partisan, and we're going to struggle with getting these through. And there's two ways that they want to try and prevent us from accomplishing what we want to accomplish. That's point of orders, killing it in the House, and if we manage to get these all the way through, it's the lawsuits. And so what happened yesterday was another representative attempted to sit on the dais and ask questions of the author, and we were advised by the parliamentarian and others not to allow this to happen. The chairman, when they lay out the bills, when the chairman lays out the bills, they will delegate to the vice chair. And when this started to happen, the chair took back the gavel and attempted to recess per the parliamentarians' guidance. And in doing so, there was an important piece missing when we recessed. We didn't designate a time when it would come back, and the end result was that the hearing abruptly ended. And so, there's another thing that, is really important is thank you to those that came out. We know it's a time commitment. We know it's some of you are traveling a long time to get there and sacrificing a lot. And so we really do appreciate y'all coming out. We need y'all support and testimony and involvement in this process. It was unfortunate what happened yesterday. But this is kind of the battle we're in right now. And we have some good election bills that we need to get passed. We have, House Bill 6 is an important one. It's got a lot of good things that we want to make sure we accomplish. And we also have a lot of other election bills that are in smaller pieces that we want to make sure that we try and get through. And so y'all's involvement in this process really is so important. Don't get discouraged by what happened yesterday if you came all the way out and didn't get to testify. We really do need y'all out there to help us to get these through. So that's my main point in this whole thing. It's unfortunate what happened on the dais and the way this ended yesterday, but we're still fighting. We need y'all's help.
Well, thank you, Representative. I hear that there were a lot of Republicans that did show up, and we are, we feel like that's that call to action, and you guys did take action. And I mean, it's part of the process. We live and learn, but hopefully they will all show, the people will come again next week. We will continue to share the information when the meetings are going to happen. And maybe some of you that are here today, which I know one is for sure, Linda will be going to the Senate this morning, but maybe some of you, if you have time to run over there, that you'll be able to go over to the Senate side today.
Come here, baby. Come here.
Myra, we have we need to mute you, please. I have a feeling you have your dog or something with you right there.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. So anyway, okay, well, let's move on to the Senate side right now. And today we are really honored to have you, Senator Huffman, to join us, and Austin was so good to communicate with. So I compliment you on having such a fabulous staffer and enjoy communicating with him. But so pleased to have you. Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, she has an incredible resume, and I encourage you to go on to the TLO and look at everything she's done and how she has served the people in many different aspects as a prosecutor, as a judge. That's how she was first elected, was as a judge in Harris County. Then she ended up in 2008 became the senator for her district, and which I think moves around a little bit depending on what redistricting does. But she really does serve the people. And in fact, I want to compliment you too, because I saw some pictures of you down on the border you were down there on Monday. And so thank you for going out there and being a part of that. If you want to share a little bit about it after you lay out what you want to talk about with the redistricting of the appellate courts. But we're very excited to have you. And so as we would like you to lay it out, then we'll have Karen Marshall is the one. She will be asking questions at the time that you're feeling comfortable. And then they will write on the chat, and then you'll be able to have, we'll be able to go back and forth. So Senator, thank you for being with us. Oh, and by the way, she's on 5 committees and chairs too. So I'm not sure how she sleeps or even eats, but here she is with us this morning. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you, Tony Ann, and thank you for a very sweet introduction. I appreciate it very much. And yes, you're right, I am very busy these days. There is a lot going on in the Capitol, and I know y'all are very interested in election integrity. And so I will say that, as you know, the Senate is meeting this morning to cover for a hearing they were supposed to have Monday. So just like the House, we have had some issues with folks trying to create some chaos amongst our bills. specifically, the Democrats in the Senate had tagged some of the bills, which is a parliamentary move to slow things down. But not to be deterred, they're starting this morning, and I would anticipate we'd have something on the floor perhaps next week. I don't sit on state affairs anymore. As many of you know, I was chair of state affairs for several sessions. I gave that up so that I could chair redistricting, because that would be impossible to carry out both those duties. But I was also given the chair of jurisprudence, which sort of has turned out to be also a catch-all committee. And so through that committee, I'm handling some of the issues that are tangential to redistricting, and also some of the ERCOT issues are going there among a kind of myriad of other legal issues. So it's an interesting session. I think, though, of course, the most important things that we have to get done, both constitutionally and statutorily this session, are both passing the budget, which of course we have to do, but also the redistricting process. I will say that what is going on with redistricting this session is different than it has ever been before. And that is because, of course, the pandemic, which seems to creep its way into every issue in the Capitol these days in one way or another, but it also had an impact on redistricting. And that was because the numbers, the census counting was slowed down by the pandemic, the ability for the counters to get out into the public and get the correct numbers. Generally, about this time in a normal redistricting process, we would be anticipating starting to receive numbers from the U.S. Census Bureau, which would be the official redistricting data that we would use to draw the maps. As you know, we draw the legislative maps, we draw the SBOE maps, and the congressional maps. But because of the delay, we do not have those numbers. We can play around the issue around a little bit, start looking at the numbers, but remember, these are all based now. The numbers we have on estimates, which is the American Community Survey, which are statistical samples of the numbers, not the actual numbers. So to perform our duties appropriately, we have to have the real numbers. We are hearing that we believe the numbers, the latest numbers we will receive them would be September 30th. September, you heard me right. Could come a couple of weeks early, but sometimes within the month of September is when we anticipate now. We've had some contact with the Census Bureau. A lot of this information we get from lawsuits in other states where some states have sued, and through some of the answers in the pleadings and so forth, we're getting some concrete information. But the Census Bureau, we do have, one-on-one with them so that they understand in Texas, we only meet in legislature every 2 years. We have a constitutional duty to draw these maps, but we can't draw the maps without the numbers. So if you think about when the numbers are coming in, we're going to have to do it in special session. I've spoken with the governor, of course, lieutenant governor, other leadership, and the governor appears to be completely in support of understanding that he will, in fact, call a special session when we have the numbers. Once we get the numbers, we will follow all the requirements of having public hearings, putting the maps out there, and all of that takes a little time. I think it would be very difficult for us to get all three of those maps drawn in one 30-day session. It certainly is possible. We would have done as much preliminary work as we can to make that happen. But, redistricting is difficult. The bills have to go through both chambers. I would anticipate there would be a lot of discussion around the congressional maps. Texas is really grown, and more than any other state, and we're slated to, receive, it's hard to say exactly how many congressional seats, but it looks like, at least 3. So that's a lot of maps to draw. And so the news that I have for you today, which you're probably not going to like, is, we will have to push the election dates, the primary dates. Clearly, we can't change the November 2022 general election. It's a national election date. We clearly can't fiddle with that. But we are going to have to move the primary dates. I will have a bill in committee, actually in the jurisprudence committee, not the redistricting committee, next week that'll kind of lay out the proposed dates. I'm hoping that if we can get the maps finalized by mid to end November, we could still have the regular primary dates. It's just, I think it's a little bit of wishful thinking for the maps to be final and all ready to go. And so if not, then the maps, if the maps take a little longer, then the primary date is going to get pushed further down. And so stay tuned. That's all I can tell you. It's we will have a bill. I'm hoping that the legislature will be receptive to this bill. I think I can get it out of the Senate, and I'm going to pass it on to the House, and I'm sort of leading on this, and we'll see what the House does with it. So I know that makes a difference to many of you who are very active in politics and active in elections. Many of you probably work as election judges and are very involved in the process, very concerned with election integrity. But we have to run on lines that are constitutionally correct, that are apportioned correctly. If we would say, well, let's just go anyway, then we know that many of the districts are malapportioned. And how do we know that? Because even through the survey, we can see that there's been tremendous growth. For example, west of Houston, north of Dallas, Tarrant County, and so forth, we have tremendous growth. So in the congressional seats, the law requires that it's one person, one vote, which means the congressional districts we have to strive to have the exact same number of people in each congressional district. In the legislative districts, the Senate districts, we have a little more flexibility because some deviation is involved, but our goal, our duty is to strive to make them as equal as possible, but the law gives us a little flexibility. So that's why you can see they take a little time, and the politics involved of getting them between the houses is going to be difficult. So that's kind of where we are in redistricting. It's very, very frustrating. We have completed all our regional hearings. We did a series of virtual hearings in the Senate. My understanding is the House is going to start some virtual hearings as well soon, and kind of very similar to the way that the Senate did it, just to get some preliminary work done to hear from the public in general. So I'll move on a little bit to appellate restructuring, because I know y'all are interested in that. And many people think, well, that is based on equivalent to redistricting. It's just redistricting the courts. It's actually not correct. And the reason that we can move forward on that is because the restructuring of the court is not based on census data. It's not based on population. It is more based on, think of it as the work of the court. So we work through the Office of Court Administration to get really good data about all the different appellate courts in the state, how they work, their caseload, the number of cases, that docket transfers that are happening. So the cases are sent to other courts. And we work kind of backwards from with that information to make the court system a more efficient system, to do a docket equalization so that if you live in a appellate district and you vote for those appellate judges, those are actually going to be the appellate judges who hear your cases. If you were to be a litigant in a lawsuit, that would make it to the appellate level, because we've lost that completely. Believe it or not, this has not been done since 1983. And as I've dug into this, and it has been months of work, literally, I have two great lawyers that have been working with me on this. And I can see why it hadn't been done since 1983. And that is because it's hard. It's hard to do it. It takes a lot of work to crunch the numbers, because the numbers are not just they give us the numbers from a computer data, but there's no way to then plug the numbers in and come up with some, maps or answers. You sort of have to dig around and figure it out. And I'll say it's politically very difficult, because, it ends up being partisan just by the nature of the beast. And it also becomes an urban and rural issue, because, the rural justices and so forth, and the representatives, the senators from the rural areas, very protective of their districts, which we respect. So I've really tried on this map to come up with everything that I possibly can to accommodate all the different interests in the state. Will there be some people who are unhappy with the map? Yes. I think most people will think it's a very fair map and understand the thought process that went into drawing it. And is it a map that is important and good for the future of Texas? I believe that very much so. That's why we work hard to try to get support. Do I think there's a great chance that this will make it through both chambers? No. Do I think there's a possibility and perhaps it can happen? Yes. So, there's a lot of people who haven't even seen the map that are working against the map. I don't really understand that. I mean, the way I look at this, and I had a big Zoom meeting with most of the chief justices were actually on the call. And, it sort of had to play the mean lady on it and say, with all due respect, as elected officials, whether it be me or an appellate judge, no one has a quote unquote right at all clearly to the district that they represent. You hold the place for the people and for the next person who takes your spot. And it should be about looking what's best for the future of Texas and our country. So as we draw these maps, you have to kind of remove the personality. So as I drew the maps, we didn't look at which justices were representing which appellate districts, where they lived. We made ourselves blind to all of that so that we could fairly step back and make an objective decision about how the lines were drawn. And I'm happy to answer more questions. I will say that bill is going to be heard in committee next Wednesday. On Monday, I'm going to be meeting with a lot of the senators and showing them the maps and how it affects their specific Senate district so that they can get a feeling for that. I'm also going to email the maps and the bill to all of the justices in the state of Texas in a move of complete transparency so that everyone can understand, because it's the kind of bill, when you just read the bill, it doesn't make sense because it just says this county goes into this district and so forth. And if you just look at it, it doesn't make a lot of sense. And so we'll have maps attached so that people can actually get a hard look at kind of what's going on. I do think it will be a map that more reflects Texas and will allow for a fair hearing and representation of individuals who find themselves before a court of appeal. The other thing that I have, which I think is interesting, is I am trying to create, if I can get the votes, a Texas Court of Appeals. So we will have a panel of 5 judges that are elected statewide. So they're not, it will sit in Austin, but elected statewide. And they will be the place where any state agency, any big lawsuits that involve the state are appealed go through that Court of Appeals. So when the AG is sued, or the AG is suing on constitutional issues, or state agency is sued, instead of having to go to the Austin Court of Appeals, it will go to the Texas Court of Appeals, which will be in Austin, but representative of all of the people of Texas, because all of the people of Texas will elect these 5 individuals. So I think that's kind of a game changer if I can get that passed. And I want to leave plenty of time for questions, so I'm just going to stop there. I don't want to monopolize other speakers' time, but I could talk probably for 2 hours. I'm doing a lot of things, but
well, that is, yes. And I mean, I have one other person to talk, but that's towards the end. This is really important.
Yes. Yeah.
Here, I've seen some of the questions pop up, but Karen Marshall, who's out of San Antonio, young Republican, is our question lady. And so she is going to be the one to read what's coming through, and then you all have the option. And I have 2 questions myself, but I'll let the other ones talk first.
Yes, ma'am. I'll try my best to answer whatever you ask.
Oh, we appreciate it.
All right, are you ready for the hot seat?
Yes, ma'am, always.
Okay. Well, some of the other people on the call have been answering some questions, like Eric Opiella and JC Jetton have been filling in some of the answers, but let's see here. When will HB 6 be on the schedule again in elections?
It's hard for me to answer House Bill questions because I don't know, because I don't know exactly what House Bill 6 is, and I don't know what the House schedule is, and I'm not privy to that information. I don't talk to the speaker. I mean, I don't.
So wait, okay, Karen, why don't you end up holding on that, and then we can have Representative Joan answer that, okay? And could you repeat what bill that she was just talking about? Because I did see it went on to the chat, the answer went on chat, but I'd like everybody to hear the bill number too, please.
So the bill that she was referring to, which is going to be heard next Wednesday, is SB 11.
Yes.
For everybody who follows on TLO. And where can people go to see maps of the appellate courts?
When the bill is filed, I mean, the bill is filed, but when it's laid out, because there's just a shell bill there now, it really doesn't say anything. But when I lay out the committee substitute, which will be on Wednesday in the jurisprudence committee, the committee sub will go online probably after the hearing. Though if you want to watch the hearing, it's live stream and you can hear some of the discussion. I will say also on Monday, I will be sending out the maps to some of the justices, and so all of the justices, actually, a lot of the Senate, all the senators will have access to the map. So it will be out there in the public. I wouldn't be surprised if someone put it online, or if somebody put it out in some way, or I can look into a way to try to put it online through the committee website. I can check on that and see if that's possible. But it will be out there in the public. But by Wednesday, for sure, it will be there for the public to see.
All right. Will SB 11 be modified or substituted to include one of the solutions suggested by Texans for Lawsuit Reform?
This is not TLR's map, but I, have met with them and I know what their goals were, and this map meets those. It has a lot of the same goals and so forth, but I did not work side by side with them. They're very supportive of the map and will be, endorsing the map and supporting the map. Yes. I talked to them yesterday, in fact.
And then his follow-up question is, if none of their suggestions are favored, is there another redistricting solution for Texas appellate court districts which you support?
I have not. No one else is working on this. So if this map fails, if I can't get the votes, then they won't be redistricted this session. Nobody else has put the work into this. So, and of course, we've been through a lot of different iterations of this. It's not like we just came up with a map. So, a lot of thought has been put into this. But as I said, very honestly, during my presentation, I couldn't really measure the possibility of it actually making it through the process. But no, to my knowledge, no one else is working on anything.
All right. Bisa Martin asks, Senator Huffman, how is the Ledge Council involved in the redistricting of the appellate courts?
They're not involved at all.
All right.
Well, let's put it this way. Ledge Council is the one who prepares the bill. So we give them the information and they do the actual drafting, because that's required that there's a Ledge Council version of the bill. So, but we have done all that in-house, because remember, these are not based on redistricting numbers. These are based on data, court data that comes from the Office of Court Administration. So it doesn't have anything to do with the number of people, it has to do with the work of the courts.
All right. Leonard asks, could you please clarify why appellate redistricting or restructuring is not dependent on census data?
I think I answered that. It's because it's the workload of the courts. It's not the number of people. I mean, clearly where there are more people, there's more court work. But, so what was happening, of course, was in the urban areas a lot. Well, it really was happening all over the state. It wasn't just the urban areas. I mean, it was just as likely for, there was no real rhyme or reason. And then there was overlapping appellate districts where it could be confusing, say like in the Houston area where there's a couple of courts of appeal. And then in some of the areas, some of the district courts were split. So there was a lot of confusion out there as well. We tried to clean all that up, so.
All right, and is there any chance, Carol Spencer asks, that the Senate will change its rules to allow online submission of public comments?
Well, I allow, so there's a difference between virtual testimony and online comment. So I have, for example, Howard, in fact, have the letter ready to send to the justices with the maps on Monday, I think it is. And in the letter, I tell them, if you have comments, please, you know, submit to me to them, and I will enter them into the record in case people can't come from all over the state. That's different than allowing virtual testimony during the actual committee process, but people can send those comments in and I will enter it into the committee's record and consider all the written comments that are received. Yeah, the Senate rules only, they made an exception for redistricting just because of the nature of redistricting and then the need for me to get going on that. That was required, you know, by case law and the Constitution to start including the public. So the Senate allowed me to do that virtually, but no other committee is doing virtual hearings in the Senate. I don't think in the House, but I'm not really sure, but not in the Senate.
All right. Bisa Martin had a follow-up question. Are the courts divided by overall cases, or was consideration made between civil and criminal cases?
It's just overall cases, yeah. Now remember, this doesn't affect the Court of Criminal Appeals, so that's a statewide. So remember, these are just, you know, the regional courts. And it was just caseload.
All right, and Ben Brown asks, will your map or proposed map and your bill eliminate transferring of cases between the different appellate courts?
It should. That's the goal of it. It doesn't provide that it can't happen, but there should be very little of that with the drawing of these maps. Very little.
And the people on here wanted me to express their gratitude to you for taking on this tremendous challenge. Yeah. So I wanted to be sure to include that.
Yeah.
And then
yeah.
I think up next is Tony Andashil's questions are in order.
Okay,
well,
great.
Thank you, Karen. And then I will go into Representative Joan in just a moment. But Senator, what you made a comment in the beginning under redistricting that you were going to submit dates for the possible primaries that might get extended. And I think that's great. I was a county chair when we had to do that back in 12 maybe? Whenever that was a real challenge. So how are you going to determine like a date that, and which I think is a great idea because we can all prepare for it if that's instead of just saying, okay, now we're going to do it in a month.
Yes.
How is the process going to work on that?
Well, they'll be set out in the bill. So the way, you know, it's going to be a little confusing, but I think once anyone who kind of looks at it can figure it out. You know, we have to work backwards from the election date because, as you all know, under the MOVE Act, which is the Military Overseas Voters Act from, which is a federal act, you know, there are time requirements for how long in advance of election you have to give military voters a chance to get their votes in and so forth. So we work very, very closely with the Secretary of State, who has worked with us on kind of, we started backwards, you know, from the November 22nd election and working backwards to when was the very latest, the last primary runoff could be, because that would be kind of the last election event that would happen before a general. And then from there, we just work back. So the way it'll work is if the maps are final by date X, then the filing period will lay out when the filing period will be, when the primary would be, and when the runoff would be. So there's kind of 3 different scenarios. So it will be very clear that the election will occur on a specific day. And of course, we have to set out when the filing periods are as well. So the filing periods are going to have to be shorter because there's no way to do that full month. We don't have the luxury of that time in any of these scenarios. So the filing periods are going to be real tight. So again, yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, though. If you say we go through the filing period in November and then we get moved back into 2022, a different date do they have to refile? Is that correct?
No, because remember, you can't have a filing period until there's a final map because people wouldn't know what they're running for, right? So there will be no filing periods until, and most of the filing periods are about a week after the maps are final. So people are gonna have to pay really close. I mean, the maps will be online, they'll be public. So, you have to pay really close attention to these maps because they will come up fast and then they'll end fast, but there's no other way to do it. And because many of the other timelines are set in statute or well, most of them are in statute. So, so that's why it kind of works that way. But it's not perfect. It's not a perfect world there, but
we just have to be very flexible and be aware of what's going on.
Right.
Okay, before we go off, my one question is, could you give us just a briefing about what happened at the border on Monday?
Yeah, so I went down there with all the Republican female senators, and DPS took us down there, and we had wanted to get into the first holding facility in Donna, Texas, where they bring the young migrant, the children, and they denied us access or entry. I think since then, I think a lot of people have made a lot of noise and they've let a couple of people in, but they were just dead set. And I want to say it's not the Border Patrol, it's not Customs, it's really all those orders are coming from Washington. And we met with the border chief of Border Patrol for that sector. He's very upfront. He's a great guy. Gave us a really good briefing, and it's pretty horrifying as we've kind of seen this before. It's clear that all of this is the new surge is due to new Biden policies on immigration and him pretty much announcing that Trump's policies were thrown out the window, and the cartels respond to that. I mean, they are paying attention to what's going on. They will tell you that on the border. They can see it happen. They talk, most of the Border Patrol, a lot of them speak Spanish. They talk to these individuals coming across. They don't make it across there by themselves. The cartel is making a killing off of this. And and then we did go to one of the detention centers and it was a very great facility run by an NGO, and it was for migrant males between the ages of 13 and 17. Over 1,000 of them there is, treated nicer, their dorm rooms are nicer than anything I had in college. They got a big screen TV. They have, soccer field. It's, it's very nice. And they're fed very good, wholesome meals. And, but it's interesting. It costs $1,000 a day per child. I'm going to call them a child. They were young adolescents. That's a lot. So, and thousands there, they stay an average of 10 days. They cycle out, and that's where then they are sent to a sponsor or a foster, wherever they're going, into either Texas or other parts of the United States. They are flown if they're they bring them like an unaccompanied minor, like you do if you're flying your kid on an airline. Someone has to escort them. If they're younger, I think than 13, if I'm correct on that age, then an employee has to fly with them all the way to wherever they're going and make sure they get with the sponsor and come back. So, it's a mess. Or, as they concentrate on these migrants coming across, then it opens up the border, more drugs and more people are getting across who are not turning themselves in. Many of these people look for Border Patrol when they cross the river. So, they want to be processed. So it's not like they're chasing them, but those chases are still going on because the cartels take advantage of the fact that the Border Patrol is so, concentrated. They have to take care of these children, that they know that that's when a lot of the criminals, as the Border Patrol chief told us, this past month, they apprehended people from 58 different countries. And if you saw that list, you wouldn't be happy because it's, from Yemen to, it's Yugoslavia. I mean, it's just not, that's not a country anymore. It's crazy. It's from all over the world. So it's not just Central Americans. Those are the ones that are coming across in great numbers with their children, or children from other families, or children that they just process through because they know it's a free ticket in. So there's that going on too.
So I do see that there's a couple questions regarding the border. Let's see if you
Okay.
can answer some, and
I'll try.
get
Yes.
through that real quick, if that'd be
Real
okay.
quick.
Sharon, could
Yes,
you do
ma'am.
that?
All right, the first question is, well, let's go to the border ones. Where are female migrants being processed and held?
There are several detention facilities around. They just didn't bring us to that one. And there are, we actually went on a helicopter too, so we could kind of fly along the Rio Grande, and you could see because it's very desert looking down there, you could see different detention facilities being built. They're popping up because, and then of course they're sending some off, as y'all know, to Midland, to Dallas Convention Center. There's different big facilities around the state that they're looking at as well, but they are frantically trying to put up facilities for as many of them as they can. They're going to run out. They're going to run out of room soon here, though, and then I don't know what's going to happen. They'll just start. But the kids, they can't just release, but they are just releasing some of the family. If it's a family unit and they're a company, they're starting to just release those and tell them, we'll contact you with a date someday. So there's that going on too.
All right, Linda Durnan asks, is Texas or is the federal government paying for migrants?
The migrant is a federal responsibility. So the detention facilities and so forth are all they're still paid by you, federal, tax dollars, but they're federal funds. But what happens is, as these children go into the communities, they go to schools, they go to our emergency rooms, they go to our, all our state facilities. And so ultimately we will start picking up the tab. And it doesn't take long because they will start going into schools. And then there's a problem. Some of these kids don't speak Spanish. They speak a dialect of indigenous dialect, not a lot, but enough of them that it's a problem, and it can be a problem in the schools. And I've been contacted before by schools who don't really, it's very problematic for them. So to have an interpreter, which they have a right to. So.
All right. And is the governor planning to use the National Guard to stop border crossings?
I can't say what he's doing. I believe there's already probably some National Guard down there. The place is infiltrated with DPS. DPS doing a fabulous job. They started this, they call it Operation Lone Star, in the last couple of weeks to really saturate the areas where they're getting across. So DPS is in there in huge numbers. And of course, in the legislature, we funded helicopters and boats and cameras and all kind of tools to help with the Border Patrol. We've been doing that for several sessions now, that we poured billions of dollars. This budget has almost $800 million for border to kind of beef up the border. So the governor and the lieutenant governor and the Texas legislature has been very supportive of border activities for several years now. And thank God we were, because I don't think the Border Patrol could do their job without DPS. And they will tell you that. I mean, it's a team effort down there. It's something to see. It really is.
All right. The next question, how can we see a list of countries of the people who are coming through our southern border?
I can send you a picture, because when the Border Patrol guy did a presentation, he had it up on a screen, and we were able to look at that. He did not, they couldn't give us a copy of the printout, but I was able to see some of it. Started with Angola, I'll just, Burma, I'll just throw some out. Cuba, Ethiopia, El Salvador, Guatemala, Honduras, Indonesia, Iraq, Ivory Coast, Morocco, Nepal, Nicaragua, Nigeria, Pakistan, Panama, Peru, Puerto Rico, Romania, Senegal, Sierra Leone, South Africa, I don't know why Sri Lanka, Togo, Uruguay, Uzbekistan, Venezuela, Yemen, Cameroon, Burundi, Burkina Faso, Congo, Democratic Republic of Congo. So have the list right here on my phone because I took a picture. So it's all over the world. It's a good representation of the world. But
All right.
you don't get that information unless you kind of get down in there and you ask the right people. It's not something that, is being disseminated to the media or anything like that. I think so. Pay
The
attention.
next question comes from Debbie Wolgemuth. And can the Texas legislature act on this?
I think we're acting in every way that we can by enhancing enhancing the border every way we can through DPS, trying to pay attention to what's going on. But immigration policy is completely set by the federal government. All we can do is be a supporting role, but we cannot set policy, nor can we turn people away. We don't have the authority to do so. But I would say as a state, we're making a darn good effort to do everything within our power to assist this. But I don't see any relief coming from the federal government. And I want to emphasize, it's not the people down there working on the border. It's not the federal employees on the border. They understand the problem and they are dedicated to try to fix the problem. But the policies that are set by the administration really form how those on the other side of the border, how they respond and how the cartels respond. And when it's indicated that the border is open and easy to get through, they will take advantage of that, and they do it quickly and they do it in force. And that's what's happening. And it's going to get worse. Just pay attention. It's going to get worse.
Well, Senator, thank you so much. Oh my gosh. Let's go. Did I freeze? Oh no.
No.
Okay. You can stay on if you'd like. We only have a few more minutes, but I just can't tell you how much we appreciate what you've shared. I mean, incredible information. Very much
Okay.
so. Karen, you have a
Anytime.
couple.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. Karen, you have a couple questions for Representative Jaton that I think might be quick. And then I will want you to listen to Linda Durnan, and she's going to talk about action, what she's been doing, and hopes to encourage you to do some in this direction. So go ahead, Karen, please.
All right. These were questions that Representative Jetten answered on the chat, actually. Are comments submitted online distributed and read by committee members during a hearing? If not, is it worth submitting such online comments?
Yes. So the comments are provided to the members on the committee. They're entered into a commit or into a portal, and so we're able to see all those. And I'd still argue those are effective.
And you also answered this one, but is what the Democrats were arguing yesterday, was it points of order and lawsuits? Yeah, so it's setting the framework for it, the foundation for it. And so what was attempted, and I just want to reiterate, what appeared to be a lack of preparation, it was more of a very unique attempt by the Democrats to do something that's not normal. And so, Chairman Kane did the best he could under a unique situation, and still deserves our support as we continue to go through this. But they were attempting to do things that if it passed through committee and made it to the floor, that we could have ended up with issues, and we have to keep this bill nice and tight and clean and get it through there. And so it'll get restarted. And I think the next question may be when it'll come back up, and we will have the committee notices up today and it'll be up to the chairman's discretion on whether or not that comes up next week or if it comes up at a later date. But we should know by the end of the day whether that'll be next week. And that's all the questions specifically for Representative Jetten.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. I appreciate that. Well, now what I'd like to do is go in and have you hear firsthand what it's like to be a new person, to go through the process, to get into a committee. Yesterday was the House, and I know she's going to go to the Senate today, but I pulled her in so that you would all hear what it's like to go and to be ready to testify and to that process, because you need to know it, and I'm encouraging you to go. So Linda, who is the president of the Northwest Austin Republican Women, who I met just in person not long ago, is here to share her story. And I want you to listen so that you're prepared when you're ready to go to Austin to testify. So Linda, would you take it away, please?
Thank you, Tony Ann. Good morning, everybody. Well, it was very interesting. I have to admit it. It was the first step of the journey. And I think the most nerve-wracking thing for me was parking. But we, thanks to Bonnie and her husband, they gave excellent directions. And we even beat the cars with voter suppression. That's how good we were yesterday morning. So basically, I had gotten all my homework done ahead of time and my talking points. And I thought it was so interesting being there. So I would like to say thank you for our elected officials. They're doing incredible work. So can't thank you all enough. So what I found very interesting was I had also done a lot of work ahead of time, ground level work with early voting ballot board, a poll watcher, as well as working the elections. So what I heard yesterday, really with no voter fraud and all the other things that were said, I had ammunition from personal experience that if I had been allowed, I could have spoken to. But again, I laid it all out. I made my 20 copies. I went to the kiosk. I went with friends, and it was amazing what I learned. It was quite the education. I did have my nose swabbed where I met Donna Davidson, and it was all good. It was really good. I have to admit, I was really sad when it was discontinued and we couldn't proceed.
So Linda, so you first parked and you took on that challenge. Then you had to go be tested. In fact,
Right.
Donna's there. I just got a text from her and she just tested negative and is waiting to go into the Senate, where hopefully you'll see her in a few minutes. So you did that. And then you mentioned the kiosk. Maybe just briefly tell us. I mean, not everybody's like, the kiosk. What do you mean? What do we have to do? Because I remember the first time I did it, I had no clue. So just what did that entail?
Well, again, very lucky, helpful people were all around. But you do have to know, I think it's divided into 3 parts. One being Homeland Security, something about state elections, and another one. So maybe JC could say what, I think it was state elections for House Bill 6 that you clicked on, and then all the bills came up. And so you had to know the numbers in order to register whether you were opposed or for, and also if you wanted to testify or not. And you would click on all of those. One of the ladies wasn't sure, so she put neutral and later tried to correct it. So you really can't go back and correct. You really have to say yes, no, or neutral. And so after that, then there's more next buttons you have to keep on going on before you can check out. But I was able to do constitutional carry. I was able to do definitely House Bill 6. And I was also opposed taxpayer money going to lobbyists. So I tried to get everything in.
You did a great job, but I think it's very important what you're sharing, because it's just like Representative Click had said earlier, talk to the bill, know your bill number, know what it says, and be prepared, and make it short, sweet, and to the point, so that if they need to ask you questions, but you are really prepared. Point, if I'm not I want to clarify, is that you don't have to testify. You can be there to be in support, which also is important to encourage people that are around you. And so I think that's really important to hear, because that is that's your challenge of the week. And Linda, I mean, can't even thank you enough for taking the time to come on the call, share that with everyone, and now jump in your car and get over and get to the Senate, which I had mentioned earlier that you were going to do. Yes. You're doing an awesome job. So that's your challenge this week, is your call to action. If you're ready to go next week or the following week, prepare a day to go to Austin and to know the bill, do the homework like Linda did. But she did one other thing too, is she brought friends with her, and she encouraged people around her to come in. And I ask you to do that too. But the one thing also, don't forget, May 1st election is coming up. But the big thing I'd like you to do also for next week is enjoy that Easter week and Passover week, and be able to share that with your family and your friends. So ladies and gentlemen, I thank you all for being on the call this morning once again. I mean, did we have some awesome reports with Representative Stephanie, and then also Representative Joan, and then we end up having Senator Huffman with what you came in, and then Linda, you rounded it off. So ladies and gentlemen, let's make sure that we always say thank you to our elected officials, because what they do for us is important, and having this dialogue and communication back and forth is so impressive. So thank you all for what you have done. We really do appreciate you, and we appreciate all the grassroots, because you're making it happen. So let's go out and let's continue to take the challenge and work in a positive way and get things done. You guys have a fabulous weekend, and happy Easter and Passover to you all. Okay, I gotta go into that. Bye, everybody. Bye, Austin.
Yeah, I was going to say really briefly, also don't hesitate to reach out to staff. You know, if you reach out to a representative or a senator's office and you talk to someone's staff, you can often have a longer conversation and submit more information to that staffer, who can then churn it and give it to their boss. And often that's a really successful strategy. So if you can't get a meeting with your senator or your House rep, bug their staff and bug them often.
Well, what we might do is maybe have a staff like yourself come on and explain. We did talk about that in the beginning of our calls way back when, but it's so good to develop that relationship. So we might have to bring you back on and have your perspective of how important it is to hear from a staffer. So that is, thank you. And if you're willing to do it, we're going to bring you back.
Yeah, just give me, you know how to reach me. Thanks, Tony.
I do. I got your number. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
I have a question for Austin. I was told
Sure.
you could access the kiosks outside the Capitol building with an online connection using your laptop or such.
I believe that is correct, but each committee will post rules on registration, and the House and the Senate often are a little different in how they go about doing that. So you're just going to want to make sure you contact the committee director or the committee clerk for the committee that you're interested in, and ask them about their registration process.
I was told that you could access the kiosk just as if I was standing inside the Capitol building in the hall.
I believe if you're connected to the Capitol Wi-Fi, you should be able to do that. But I work out here in the district, and I haven't been to the Capitol this session. So, you know, they could have changed things on me. So you never know.
I haven't tried this session, so I was just wondering. Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure, Cynthia. You'll have a great day, guys. Happy Friday.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, Austin.
Wow. Nice call.
Great call.
Yep. Okay, I'm going to terminate all you guys. I got another meeting to go to. Bye.